have a great Grundig Stenorette L, a service manual, and some leads. And we're wearing sunglasses. Let's crack on.
Hello and welcome to another MrBetaByte video, and this one's a bit different insofar as we're looking at what seems to be my favourite sort of bit of audio equipment at the moment, the Grundig Stenorette series. This is actually a Stenorette L. It's from 1966, reel-to-reel tape, has the same sort of idea as the sort of 70s one we looked at previously with the gauge for the time, and it's so solid. I mean, it's so heavy. It's amazing just how well this is built. And what's unusual is it is actually made in the UK, and I believe they even had a factory in the US as well that manufactured these for the US market. So yeah, must have been very popular, I guess, to make that worthwhile. So basically the brief is to add an audio out to this machine, so cannibalizing this lead, which seems such a shame. These are really good quality leads if you're after leads. I've had a look at the website, and it's really second to none, really, if you want a decent lead that's reliable. So yeah, would recommend QED. But yeah, so we have a microphone, start stop. You need this in for the play as well.
We have a great Grundig Stenorette L.
So you can hear I've been recording bits on there for the introduction and whatever. Yeah, this goes into a proprietary plug and socket arrangement. Let's just pull this out. So this is actually, I mean, what is that? I did think it was some sort of industrial style socket, but it does seem to be proprietary. It does seem to be something that Grundig came up with. So yeah, that's not ideal, but it does have all pins. It's like modern connectors where you want to break out on a multi-connector and half the pins are missing. All the pins are there, so I'm sort of thinking of probably doctoring this to get the audio out, because this is where audio comes out as well as goes in. It does have a telephone socket as well. I assume you'd need some sort of telephone supplied by Grundig, I guess, that would allow you to connect the phone to the unit and record telephone conversations. Does also have another socket for a foot switch. So yeah, it's really great, and some hidden little adjustments here. This one's tone. This one I haven't worked out what it's for yet. I have read the manual, but not that thoroughly, obviously. But you can see there the movement. So yeah, there are issues with it. Winding in any direction is a little bit sad, and what does sort of concern me don't know whether you can hear that, but the motor stops I don't know whether you can hear that, but the motor is labouring. So my guess is, I mean, this needs a full service as well, which is fine. We can do that. We have the manual now. I actually bought the manual off eBay. I did have a look for electronic versions of this manual, but I just could not find anything that guaranteed it was this model. And this one was, it was $3.99 plus a bit for postage, and it's great. It runs through the whole deck, and then you have the schematic in the back, and also an amendment with modifications there. So really a very good manual, and my goodness, it's actually really refreshing to see a manual like that. So yeah, how far we've gone backwards in some ways. So I suppose we need to have a look at what's causing this slowdown with transports. There's actually some quite fun recordings on this tape, which I might play back a bit later. Maybe capture as well when I put the lead in. My feeling is, because this is proprietary, I'm going to doctor this lead and actually connect this lead, solder it onto the pins, respective pins for the audio output, and then jobs are good. Especially as this is also quite useful for stopping and starting playback. So I think that's going to be the way forward, but it's going to be making sure this is actually running at a consistent speed. The slight problem I have is that I have no easy way of calibrating the speed on this, just like the other one that I did recently. It's a bit of guesswork, really. The original recordings on this tape are not great. Some seem to be like a good speed, others are really slow, so this isn't necessarily a great guide to the speed, but we'll see. Yeah, well, we'll see how we get on. So with that, I suppose we ought to crack on. So just looking at this motor run issue. I don't know. I'm in two minds, because I can hear the motor slow down sometimes, which is a sign that possibly the motor run capacitor is bad. It does have a 2 microfarad capacitor for the motor. I do wonder if that's maybe not running that well. I mean, I can hear it running now, but I find that as it warms up, it gets worse. But at the moment, oh, there we go. Yeah, mechanically, there's something not quite right. No, it's not great, is it? So it looks like we've got a mechanical issue, possibly something not moving into the right position as it should. But it also seems like we've got issues with the motor itself. And given the recordings on here as well, it does sound like as this warms up, the that cap is failing. don't know. I can hear the motor still running. So this is going to need an overhaul, isn't it? It's going to be a bit involved. And I suspect there's hardened grease as well, so yeah. It's actually quite hard work. To actually move this, it's really not driving at all. Okay. Yeah, I can feel that motor. You can feel by the vibrations from the motor that it's struggling. Yeah, we've got buzzing, which is a sign. That cap is bad. Okay, so let's unlace this and let's take the back off. Okay, so I've taken the 4 bolts out. They're actual proper bolts. I did not use a proper tool to do that. But I will use a proper tool to put it back on. And this should lift off, I think. It's not really... Oh, is it the top that comes off? Let's move the top of the reel off. Oh, it's loose. What have I missed? There's a screw there, and there's screws. Okay, so there's 3 screws. Like this. So one there, one on the back there, and one there. So what I've actually done is just release the chassis, which is sort of fairly not unusual for this era of kit. So yeah, I'll get the screws out and we'll crack on. So we're in it, and it's not great news. First thing I did was look under there. Let's look at that. That's terrible. That's the motor start capacitor. So yeah, we'll replace that. But looking at this, I don't think you can see there very well. There is a drop of electrolyte coming out there. Quite a few of these caps seem to have the ends pushed out. I mean, it's amazing it was still working, to be honest. I think these caps should look more like that, even though, I mean, even that one's starting to push out, but all of these are pushing out. So they're just all going to have to go. That one there, look, this one's fine. That one's pushed past. It's all just expanding out of the metal container. I'm not a massive fan necessarily of recapping stuff if it doesn't need to be done. Especially, you know, with the Betamax machines, you can't realistically change every single capacitor, and the majority of them are okay, but this is going to need a recap. And yeah, I think I might need to get onto George to ask him if he wants me to do that, because it's not going to be cheap. Yeah, So yeah, let's do that and take it from there. It's quite a few months on, and it's been a bit of a battle, this one. Not least, it's sort of finding good quality capacitors that aren't radial, basically. So I've managed this. These that I've left, they seem to be okay. They're not physically showing signs of leakage, and they seem to test okay. So I'm going to go with that, especially as I now have to get this back because I've had it much longer than I intended. And yeah, George really needs it back. So most start capacitor, I ended up, because it just physically wouldn't fit. I couldn't fit it here because of the mains input socket. So I've put it here. There's a through hold for, it's actually for one of these capacitors. So I've mounted it in there and taken the top off, taken a bit of the plastic off. Well, no, I haven't taken a bit of the plastic off. I've put a hole through the plastic so the lead can come out, filled it with glue. It's already epoxied in anyway. So I filled it with hot glue. Shouldn't have compromised it in any way that I can think of. And I've actually wired it direct to the terminal for the starter for the motor, so that should be okay. So we've got that out, so that went there, and these wires were fed through. One thing while I think about it, this circuit diagram is completely, well, I say completely different. There are a lot of differences between this and that. Some of the color codes are wrong. So wires of a certain color do a different thing in this compared to the circuit diagram. There's also missing capacitors on this that this has. For example, it's got two of these 750 microfarad, which I've actually used 1000 microfarad, 35 volts, should be okay. And on the circuit diagram, it only shows one. So I'm hoping I've got it right, because I actually had to wait a while for these to come. I can't remember why they took so long, but they did. It's just a bit annoying. Yeah, so it is done as far, well, it should be a working deck. I haven't actually powered it on. I've put a little bit of oil on the three spindles. They're fairly free running, but you can hear some noise from this end, just from a little bit of, I suppose, corrosion or contamination from over the years and not being used. So that's fine. I've also wired in the phonos, so obviously it's not stereo, but it just means you can plug it into a stereo deck and get mono out of it. I've actually gone straight across the speaker. That should be okay. It's probably pretty awful. We'll see. We'll give it a test. But this is not hi-fi quality. It's for speech. As long as it's not distorting, then we should be okay. Otherwise, I might have to modify it. So I've got a cable tie there just so it isn't pulling on the socket. So this is for this. So microphone and speaker socket there. And there's a plug. So foot switch here and telephone input here on a DIN. They're both DINs, and obviously it's got this weird mains plug. I think I mentioned before, this is actually a UK built deck, and it's very different in looks. This isn't as tidy as the picture of the German version, which is quite interesting. Make of that what you will. But yeah, the belt is fine. Not that it's critical for operation. All that is doing is running the Stenorette, the sort of token tape progress bar across, which I think is wonderful. I like that on the new ones. Actually, it's built into the cassette on the newer versions. So this is about ready to go. This capacitor at the moment is floating about. I would like to put a clamp on it and maybe use that screw, but it might have to be hot glued in the end, which I really don't want to do because it's not a great way to do it, but it is mechanically anyway staying there. So just a bit of glue maybe just to ensure it isn't moving. The one side is protected anyway. This side was, and I cut it off thinking I'd actually got the polarity wrong, but I hadn't. It is actually correct. And I didn't want to start pulling this about again too much to put some heat shrink back on. So I'm going to leave it. I'm relatively happy. That's fine. So that's cool. I suppose I could put a bit of insulation tape around it, token insulation tape. So you've got two relays there and a relay there. It's got a cobweb in it. I don't know how easy that is to take off, but I don't. Oh yeah, there's a spring there. I might just take that off and give that a clean out. But otherwise, this should be a working unit. I'm going to put it back in its case and before we test it. But yeah, let's crack on. So bottom cover's back on. It's all fine. This I'm a little bit concerned about because this was actually what was moving it about and whatever. It was pulled so far over, it was actually shorting across. So I think I need to just run a bit of solder there just to stop it doing that. So that's the lead. It's not very elegant, but it will do. So it's all a bit haphazard anyway, really. I've sort of lined it up so these controls are accessible and don't foul anything, so they're right. I don't know whether that, I would have thought that should go on, but it doesn't. What am I missing? Because there's I'm sure there's a variable resistor. Maybe it is just a switch. Yeah, it is. It is just a switch. It's just weird that it's got the red line that goes right the way over, but probably it'll make sense. Ah, yeah, it does make sense because when the cover's on, it's sort of nice and obvious that it's on, off, on. So that's cool. Stenorette. It's pretty cool because it's got Stenorette written all inside. I think I mentioned that before, possibly in an earlier part of this video, but it's been such a long time. Yes, so don't know whether the lamp's any good, but I'm not going to worry too much. So I'm going to clean up and probably do some rubber renew on these wheels. Damper there, that's fine. I have lubricated these so they actually feel they feel better actually. So that's good. There's a motor there. Possibly put a little bit on there. So yeah, I'm going to clean all this up, sort out those belts, those tyres. Not worrying about the belt because the belt's actually pretty good, to be fair, and it is a round belt and probably quite interesting to change, and I just need to get this gone now. So yeah, let's crack on. Back in the bottom case anyway, and I put the 4 nuts in, or 4 screws in. And I've cleaned I've cleaned the deck as best I can. An awful lot of sort of debris, more sort of rubber sort of mess off the tires, the various tires, these black ones. These ones seem to be fine. They've been thoroughly cleaned. Little bit of lubrication just on the the actual spools. Everything else seems to be free spinning, which is great. Tiny bit of lubrication on there. I didn't want to get any in the clutch. That is actually clutched, so you can see the felt on the top there. This belt is actually quite important. Not only does it drive the progress indicator, but there's also I think this is a sensor of sorts for movement, basically. So I'm guessing, I don't know, is there a clutch or something that enables this to move once this is, I don't know. I don't actually know what that's for. I don't know. I don't think the manual tells you either, but we'll see. I'll probably work it out as we go along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this, and yeah, I think we're already in rewind. For some reason, fast forward doesn't latch, and I'm sure there's a really good reason why, but it doesn't. It just doesn't latch. That is actually start, that's play, that's stop, and I'm guessing record, that's select telephone, but I can't quite understand, that must be record. But it says telephone. I wonder if this is just, well, was sort of designed for recording telephone conversations more than anything. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting that it says that. I just wonder if something needs to trigger the fast forward to work, and maybe the record, or do you have to press, you have to press them both down for record. It sort of makes sense. So you can see there the pad going up against the head, no capstan or pinch roller, of course, so that's what makes these so fun. But yeah, in the first instance, I'm going to stick it in rewind, make sure it's on, and we'll power it up. Let's crack on. Ooh, okay. So far so good. Let's try play. Two. Right, so where does this actually go? It goes on the top. So I get the tape and put it through there. Now it has actually got a little diagram of sorts. Oh, I can't feed it through. Oh, it's got a bit of an attitude. And you feed it back on itself. Like so. And then that goes there. And make sure it's in the guides properly. Super. Okay, so let's press play and see what happens. I have actually just remembered forward is only temporary. It's not like a fast forward. Rewind is. So you rewind the tape back. Although that doesn't seem to be sticking down. Oh, I don't know. I just wonder if this is a little bit... Yeah, I think the whole alignment of the whole deck is down to the nuts underneath. I say the nuts, these screws underneath. So I think what I need to do is just free these off a bit, and I also need to find my proper little box spanner to do these up. I don't know what they are, 8mm maybe? Yeah, that's better. It just needs sort of, the whole deck just needs to be pushed over a bit. I'll leave it loose for now. I'll just have to adjust it properly once I find my box spanner that will fit. But yeah, so forward is temporary. It's just to wind on a bit past anything, you know, like a blank bit or something that isn't relevant. Rewind it back, stop it, and then just sort of cue it up to the right bit that you need to re-listen to. So yeah, I need to plug this in. I'm not going to get any sound otherwise. So let's put that there. Start, I guess. Got some volume. Don't know if there's anything on this tape. Not too sure what the things are underneath either, but I'll put them at middle. This is a switch, three-way switch, three-position switch rather. So put it in the middle. But yeah, let's give it a try. See what happens. So wind forward works. The play doesn't. So I've still got capacitor issues maybe. Because I don't want to wind this on too much because I can't rewind it. Yeah, so obviously it's going to be mechanical, isn't it? Okay, well, that's all good. So let's investigate. So I was having a rewind problem. Playback was fine. I forgot you had to have this plugged in, and it has to show start. If it's on stop, it's stopped. Start runs the motor for play. But it wouldn't rewind. And I was saying, why? It's just not quite getting enough friction when this is moved over. And what it was, this has been bent at some point to compensate for something or other. So I've straightened this, and now it's absolutely fine. There's loads of torque there, so I'll put the top cover back on, and we should hopefully be able to get this running. Let's crack on. Okay, so here goes. Here's the motor start. I don't know whether we have any audio on this at all. Let's stop it. So that's fine. Rewind is fine. Should be able to do this with the cover on, to be fair. Okay. Should be able to hear stuff. On it. Because there's a speaker and microphone. One, two, 1, 2, testing, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But certainly here is doing something. 1, 2, 1, 2, testing, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, testing, testing, 1, 2. I'll just press stop. So that must literally be just for it makes sense, doesn't it? Interesting. Don't know quite what's going on there. It's almost like I've got nothing from the head, which is a bit worrying because that head, the coil, the wire from the coil in the head is so fragile. It's just like literally just open to the everything. So I'm just worried that I might have knocked something or broken something. So I need to take this top off and have another look. So yeah, let's crack on again. I didn't actually show changing the capacitors, but I have done it. Pretty much all of them. I've left some of these really tiny values still in. This is bias here, so I'm not too worried about that because this is only going to be used for playback anyway, for capturing. But it does record fine. I actually ran it for the full length of the tape last night. It was absolutely fine. Didn't miss a beat. I've actually taken off the audio sort of capture leads then from the output of the preamp. I was just going to take it straight from the speaker output, and I thought, well, that's actually pretty poor, poor way to do it. Taking it from the output of the preamp, you can still set the volume. It's a bit annoying because obviously you still got it coming through the speaker, but you can set it and match it quite nicely. There's a capacitor there for isolation as well. And I did a test capture, and it seems absolutely fine, as good as it can be for this type of deck. Bit of a rush to get this finished because I know George is desperate to get this back, and I would have liked to have replaced all of the capacitors with the axial type, but I've had to use radial and just sort of spread the legs then to sort of get them to fit without straining them where they exit the actual capacitor itself. But it works brilliantly. I'm really pleased with it, and like I say, I've run it now probably for a good hour in total, and it's not missed a beat. It's been absolutely fantastic. Motor's good and solid now. It was running quite a bit slow, even sort of at initial startup. It would only get worse as the deck warmed up. So that motor start capacitor was obviously not performing as it should. So that was a good thing to get out of the way. But yeah, I'm really pleased with it. So I'm going to put it back together, and the nuts, just for information, they're actually 7mm. So I will say, I'm ashamed to say I have been using just pliers a couple of times, and I wish I hadn't, because it's not light. So yeah, get it back together, and we'll round off with some test captures. Let's crack on. So all back together, and I will say it's a little bit tricky just getting these so they don't foul the front cover, and everything sort of is free. Buttons under the controls underneath as well, but yeah, it's fine. So already put the tape in, except I haven't quite got that right. It seems to be quite easy to get the tape to run past the first guide. I think it's just the way I'm winding this. So in there, there's actually a little diagram showing this, which I think I mentioned before, but it's quite cool. So you loop it back on itself, and then should be able to pull that through. That's on the guide. So press play, and there's a few bits on this tape, but yeah, it's working really well. So what I'll do is I'll capture some quite interesting sort of things on this tape, but they're just little snippets. It's almost like somebody playing about with it, took it home to have a play, and recorded some sort of poems and things. So yeah, I'll do a grab of that, and you can have a listen to the quality. So yeah, there we have it. Finally got there with this. Trying to get radial capacitors, like especially axial capacitors, is really difficult. So yeah, they took quite a long time to get like good quality ones. So yeah, it's sort of quite a challenge, but we got there. And like I said, I had to use the radial ones in the end, but hey ho, it's fine, it's working. I'm just over the moon. It's working so well. So with that, thank you very much for watching. A like and subscribe would be absolutely fantastic. So much more to come, and hopefully I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.
A girl got cramp in Shanklin. Rub her leg, cried one chap there. Then a curbstone hawker shouted, Rob her garters, penny a pair. Digging for grapes in Sandown on a freezing tropical night, when your feet are just like marble, only perhaps not quite so white. A plumber from Newtown with a leak. Looked so big, he fixed all her plumbing.
There was an old man about Heath who sat on his full set of teeth. He said with a start, "Oh Lord bless my heart, I've bitten myself underneath." Jack and Jill went up the hill just like two cop linnets. Jill came down with half a crown, she hadn't been up there 2 minutes.
The cassette is held by the thumb and forefinger of the left hand. The end of the tape is drawn out and the cassette put onto the left hand spool of the Stenorette